Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're setting the stage for a truly cinematic exploration of the human mind. We're going to map out exactly how we can transform our thinking, conquer our internal dragons, and take complete ownership of our lives, instead of constantly feeling completely overwhelmed by the chaos of the external world. If you've ever felt like your motivation is just running on empty, or maybe that your past is somehow holding you back from the future you really want, this is absolutely for you. We're going to break down the mechanics of self-esteem, the hidden architecture of true motivation, and how to harness your darkest moments as literal fuel.
Okay, let's dive right into this. I want you to answer this honestly for yourself. Where do you tend to park your mental energy? We all spend time in all three, obviously. But what the data and psychological patterns actually show us is that those of us who are high achievers, we tend to obsessively focus on the future. We're just constantly looking at what's next. On the flip side, a massive majority of people spend their time trapped in the past, agonizing over things that simply cannot be changed. But here's the undeniable truth. All the actual joy and all the real power you possess exists right now, in the present. Think about it. When you obsess over the past, you're focusing on what's missing. But when you center yourself in the present, you can finally focus on what you actually have. Because every single day, we're basically living in two completely different realities at the exact same time. On one side, you've got the external world, the economy, other people's opinions, the traffic. These are things we can, at best, try to influence, but we absolutely cannot control them. On the other side, though, is your internal world. This is your domain. This is where you have absolute, total control over three crucial things: your focus, the meaning you assign to events, and your decisions. When you spend your energy obsessing over that external world, your anxiety spikes. There's no way around it. But when you stop worrying about what you can't control, and instead focus entirely on your internal meaning-making, deciding what things mean and what you're going to do about them, that anxiety completely disappears. You literally become the meaning maker of your own life.
All right, moving into section 1, the trials, earning true self-esteem.
Now, what's really interesting here is that we live in a society that often peddles this myth that self-esteem can just be handed to you, like a gift. But we really need to dispel that. Think about given praise. People can tell you your whole life that you're brilliant, you're beautiful, you're a genius, and you still might not believe it deep down. Praise is external, it's fleeting, and honestly, our brains are naturally wired to doubt it. Compare that to earned esteem. Genuine self-esteem isn't virtue signaling. It doesn't come from going around and telling everyone how great you are. It is entirely internal. It's forged through incredibly difficult private practice. Real self-esteem comes from looking inward and knowing, deep in your soul, that you survived doing something incredibly difficult. It's basically an internal ledger of your own resilience.
To ground this philosophy in undeniable reality, let's look at one of the greatest athletes of our generation, NBA legend Steph Curry. When people watch him casually sink a half-court shot, turn around before it even goes in, and listen to the crowd totally erupt, they think, wow, he's unbelievable. He just has this magical gift. But they are completely ignoring the reality of the number 500. Steph Curry shoots 500 practice shots every single day. Kinda makes my weekend pickup games look a bit pathetic, right? But he never does less than that, 7 days a week.
And let's build on that, because this is where the math of greatness gets really staggering. Those 500 daily shots translate to 3,500 shots a week. That means in just one single year, he is taking 168,000 practice shots. Think about that. This isn't some magical gift falling from the sky. This is relentless, unglamorous, highly repetitive discipline.
And here is the absolute climax of that data. Over his 15-year professional career in the NBA, Steph Curry has taken 2 million practice shots. 2 million! So when he makes 3,600 miraculous shots in actual games on TV, that is not even 0.1% of the work he has actually put in. That, right there, is what earned esteem looks like.
You get rewarded in public for what you practice in private. Let that linger for a second. True confidence strictly requires competence. There is just no shortcut around it. Wishing for confidence without putting in the dark, private, unglamorous hours is just mere delusion. You cannot hack self-esteem. It has to be earned through evidence that you provide to yourself.
Which brings us to section 2, the abyss, reframing your darkest moments.
So what happens when the challenge isn't a basketball practice court, but actual trauma? To navigate the abyss, you have to master this incredibly complex duality known as psychological superposition. Think of a horrific event from your past, something you would never want to go through again, wouldn't wish on your worst enemy.
But as the years pass, you start to realize something really strange. The light side of all that dark stuff is usually the exact trait you are most proud of today. Like, if you were entirely alone as a child, it likely made you incredibly self-sufficient as an adult. Psychological superposition is that rare ability to hold both realities in your head at the exact same time. That was terrible and unfair, and I am profoundly grateful for the unbreakable strength it forged within me. You don't collapse it into just good or bad. You hold the tension of both.
And that brings us to the ultimate cognitive reframe. The phrase, "life happens to me," is literally the language of victimhood and stagnation. If you adopt this mindset, you are essentially giving away all your power to the external world. Now contrast that with "life happens for me." This is the language of empowerment and wisdom. Now, to be clear, it's not that everything is beautifully meant to be in some toxic positivity kind of way. It means situations happen, and then it is your job to figure out how to use them to grow stronger, rather than allowing yourself to be used by the situations.
All right, Section 3, the return, the evolution of fuel.
Let's see how this builds. As we guide ourselves out of the abyss, we reach the final stage, learning how to harvest an infinite source of daily motivation. Human drive actually evolves in a very specific sequence. Step 1 is often anger. You start with a chip on your shoulder. I'll show them. We've all been there, right? Rage cleaning the house? That definitely gets you off the couch, but that fuel burns dirty and eventually it exhausts you. So you graduate to step 2, fear. You start thinking, I have to succeed. What if I fail? Now, that keeps you moving, for sure, but it creates this constant underlying anxiety. Finally, if you do the internal work, you reach step 3, knowingness and purpose. You completely stop trying to prove yourself to anyone, and your only question becomes, how can I help? This is the highest evolution of fuel.
So the crucial point is that understanding how that fuel actually operates in your daily life changes everything. Push motivation is when you are constantly forcing yourself to make things happen. It requires tremendous willpower. And while you might have a lot of willpower, it's a highly exhaustible resource. Eventually, you will burn out. But pull motivation, that relies on finding a magnificent purpose. It's when you care about something way more than yourself. It literally pulls you toward it. It doesn't drain your energy, it actually gives you energy, allowing you to laugh and actually enjoy the journey along the way.
This is why this quote is the absolute master key to everything we've discussed today. We don't experience life, we experience the life we focus on. Wherever your focus goes, your energy flows. In any given moment, there are a dozen things wrong that you could be upset about, and a dozen things right that you could be immensely grateful for. The quality of your life is strictly the quality of your emotions, which is dictated by your focus. We absolutely must intelligently discipline our disappointments. Don't let them grow. Focus on what you have, the internal world you can actually control, and the purpose that pulls you forward.
I want to end this explainer with a final provocative question for you to really sit with. What are you obsessing about that is greater than yourself? Because here is the ultimate secret. If you find a magnificent purpose that serves others, and you align your internal world to chase it, you won't even have time to think about yourself. All your superficial self-esteem issues will completely disappear out the window, replaced by this infinite, energizing drive. So figure out what that is for you, and start putting in the private reps. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one.